Oh, hey everyone. So today's my birthday. I'm really, really excited to be here with you guys. Not y'all all looking at me waiting on me to talk. um, Sue, how are you?
I'm doing good. Not too
Doing
bad.
good. Angel, you said you're doing good, doing good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Bar, how are you?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Duchess, how are you?
I'm good.
Okay. So I think today's topic or today's discussion is actually probably going to be something that we all can use. A lot of us have addictions, but an addiction can be anything. Okay, it can be food, it can be sex, it can be drugs or anything. But what I feel like this was so cool, like when Spirit put this into my spirit, is like we know that addiction, regardless, is like really bad, but I think that we have to understand exactly how bad it can be. Like whenever we're choosing to go back to our vices and when we're choosing to go back to the things that we said that we were going to quit. So yeah, so it can be really, really bad. But what I think we're gonna focus on today is what do you guys think, or what do you guys think? How much time? So say, okay, so your addictions keep you from doing the things that you want to do, right? They keep you from achieving the goals and achieving the, getting to the places that you're trying to go. How much time do you feel like your addictions, or when you go back into these things, how much time do you feel gets added back onto to what you're trying to do? Like how much time?
You mean like how much time do it take? I mean, in between us going back to it, or how much time do we feel is add on us as a setback?
There you go. How much time is it adding on you as a setback?
To me, I feel like it'd be like a couple of months added to me as a setback.
Okay, a couple of months. Um, so that's a long time. Okay, so what's your definition of a setback?
My definition is I realize how my body is when I do something I say I'm gonna stay away from. I get real lazy. I sleep all day. I don't get up on time. I'm not interested in doing certain things that I like to do. So it takes me like a couple of weeks to, maybe a couple of months to get back in my groove to, waking up on time, doing things that I like to do, getting up early, being in the sun, playing with my son. So there you go.
Okay, so addiction physically sets you back, is what you described. Okay, we
Yes.
all know that addiction physically sets us back. Okay, but what we don't know, or what we don't focus on, is addiction spiritually sets us back. And every time that we go back to our addictions or relapse, we don't only cost ourselves time and such in reference to like how long it's going to take for us to get back on our feet. We literally put ourselves back in a spiritual cycle that stops us from being able to get on our feet. And the way that this looks is we can have the money that we need, we can have the people around us, but we seem to can't get our spirit back up on its feet. Does that make sense? Okay, so every time you relapse or every time you go back into, go back to that thing that you were supposed to quit, it could be love for a lot of you, it could be food. So it doesn't just have to be an addiction, but spiritually and ritualistically, it does affect us. So when we go back, not only is it going to cost you time, Mimi, but it's also going to cost you spiritual time, like the time that your spirit is going to take to elevate it, put you deeper into a hole.
That makes
So,
sense because I never thought about it that way, but it makes sense because anytime I feel like I'm spaced out or anything spiritually, like I don't be feeling like I'm connected sometimes, it's because I don't went back to something I said I wasn't gonna do. So now I'm back in that headspace, back doing the same lesson spiritually over again. So that
yeah.
makes sense.
So there's a couple of things that cost us time in reference to our addictions or that spiritual time. So you got to think about like what you're trying to get to, how you want yourself to be, where you're trying to go, and you got to weigh that against like, is it worth not just relapsing, but okay, so let's say that the relapse was the same as putting a hex or a curse on yourself. Because it is, you know what I'm saying? But the relapse could be anything. Okay, anything that you know that you need to change about yourself to get to where you're trying to go spiritually, and to me spiritually just means I feel good while I'm doing it. I'm happy while I'm in my body. You know what I'm saying? Just that to me is good spiritual energy and good spiritual growth. Okay.
This is where I am with depression, Jordan.
You said what, friend?
When that's how I am with my depression. Like sometimes I'm really, really good, but when I'm down, it takes so long. Like I sent that video a long time ago of my bedroom and how bad it had gotten. That's how it's been, but I'm good now. But like at any moment I can just crash and it'll take me right back to where I was.
Yeah. So what causes the crash?
Really any small trigger. Like it can be somebody said something to me at work that I didn't like. Because I'm so emotional and very sensitive. And then it'll make me think, okay, well, why did they say that? So had they been feeling this way this whole time, and then I just start moping and then then turns to sleeping a lot. And then that turns into me throwing my clothes on the floor when I come home, just getting in the bed, But like lately I've been okay. But I still do have those moments. I'm able to shake it off a little bit easier now.
Okay. So something that leads to those moments, and it's not so much about you, but you had a mess. Okay. So when you get into that space, it's not so much about you even being triggered. It's about your spirit being knocked down by you doing that you shouldn't have been doing, or that you told yourself you weren't going to do. Okay. Because typically we can't define it as something that we shouldn't be doing. But if we told ourselves personally that we shouldn't be doing it, then we shouldn't be doing it. So it's defined as a bad thing from our standards, right? So everything that we define from our standards, that's the blueprint to our manifestations, our rituals, what we do. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of us have too high of a standard. You know what I'm saying? Some of you, and I'm going to use the food thing for this. Some of you don't want, like, say if you're not going to eat meat, right? You put yourself in that standard. So when you do eat meat, it doesn't affect you regularly. It affects you based on the standard that you set out to have in the first place. So that's why you feel bad. That's why you sleep bad. That's why you have bad dreams. You know what I'm saying? So you got to watch those standards that you're putting on yourself as well. But anytime that you get back into the energy of playing with your addiction, playing with fire, thinking about it, anytime that you put yourself back in that energy, you're going to add more time to your spiritual bondage and your spiritual change. I'm not even talking about the actions, because you can get addicted or you can relapse today. Okay, pick yourself up back tomorrow and have the perfect life if someone's on the outside looking in, but on the inside of you, you still are going through hell. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? Because you've added so much time and so much weight on top of your spirit. That's why it's really, really, it's super important. Super important. So the energy of today's meeting, when I was meditating on this and thinking about this, is your spirit guides really want to scare you? Like, are you willing to put that much weight on your spirit? You know what I'm saying? Because they don't have a doubt that you can actually relapse or go back into that depressive state, right? And come out of it. That's not ever in question. We know you can. You know what I'm saying? We know that you can do that. But what you can't do and what's harder to do is to remove that weight off of your spirit. You know what I'm saying? So why put that weight on your spirit? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys heard me yesterday when I was saying that I had a couple of people reach out to me, and these people that reach out to me typically come with drugs, and that was the offer, right? And instead of actually saying no, I didn't meet up with them or I didn't hang out with them, but I didn't do the right thing by my standard. You get what I'm saying? My standard was I should have said no, I should have blocked them, and I should have went ahead and severed that connection. You get what I'm saying? That was my standard. I felt the weight of that immediately. And you guys experienced that if you watched my live last night. You guys experienced that, me trying to release that weight, and I wasn't able to, but I smiled and I moved forward because I appreciate that weight. Like, it won't happen again. You know what I'm saying? And it just kind of tied in with the discussion that we're having today. Like, for me, it was just having conversations with that thing that could pull me back in. Okay. Now, by my spirit guide standards, I still did okay. I excelled in that environment. I didn't go back. I didn't open up that door. But by my own standards, I failed. You get what I'm saying? And the standards that we hold ourselves to will always be what energy that we're rendered from the universe. It'll always be based on our standards. We just hold ourselves to high standards. You know what I'm saying? We do. We hold ourselves to high standards. So when I started to dissect the message and I was like, okay, well, spirit standards are, you can kind of maneuver around them. They're not that bad, but your standards, you can't, ain't no room, ain't no wiggle room. You know what I'm saying? And the universe responds to what you set your standards as. You know, not going back to those relationships that hurt you. Not, you know what I'm saying, not dealing with those people who talk to you like crap and things like that. It's not the fact that they talk to you like crap, it's the fact that you went against what your standard was. You know what I'm saying? That's why it beats you down like that. That's why it messes with your day, it messes with your emotions, because you're not, I won't even use the word living up to your standards, but you're not you know, you're not living up to your standards, your very own standards. And spirit wanted me to make clear, like, the spirit standards and your standards are totally different. Your spirit guides support you in your standards, but they're way higher than what your spirit guides and what spirit requires of you, or what the universe requires of you to actually get through your healing process. And that's okay. You get what I'm saying? Nobody can change your standards, but you're always going to want more for yourself. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
So if we take your standards out of the equation, right? And you were to ask me, you were to say, well, Jordan, you know, I play with fire. And I would be like, okay, you know, you're gonna pick yourself up, you're gonna do a good job. Don't worry about it, friend. It's gonna be okay. All right. If I add your standards to it, which I do a lot of times in my readings, I look at you and tell you, bitch, you're crazy. It's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gauging your reading based on where your standards are. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's, how could you? You know, you're gonna set yourself back. You're gonna go into that void, that deep space. Why would you go back and talk to him? Why would you invite this energy back in? You know what I'm saying? So the readings are always reflecting and based out of what the standard you set for yourself. You know what I'm saying? In a lot of different areas, I'm not hard on myself like that. You're hard on yourself like that. We have different standards, but you know, it all affects us. You get what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
So now that we understand the standard, right? Okay. The standard. The standard is actually this. So when you think about the standard that we said, right? The standard is, we also set standards in our magic and in our manifestations, okay? But it starts at that first standard that we set for ourselves of what we need to do and what we don't need to do to excel and elevate, right? So based on that high-ass standard we set for ourselves, because we can't change that, the way that we manifest and the magic that we use and the rituals that we use and how the universe responds to what we set out to do is based on that standard. You get what I'm saying? So everything is affected by that. Okay, give me a thought.
Speak on the thought of what you were saying. We setting standards for ourselves and what spirit standards is, because I know y'all remember me saying that I left my fiance at the beginning of this year. We broke up, but I told myself I was gonna leave the man alone. But we're not together. But I still kept inviting him in my space. I still kept messing with him. So now I don't know if my ass is pregnant right now. I'm trying. I don't know if I am or not, but you know, and actually, like I said, I was stopping to drink too, but it was like, I don't know. It's like I felt shitty for messing with him again, but it was like I feel like I felt that way because I put that standard on myself. But it's like I don't know. It's confusing for real. It puts you in a state of confusion basically because of my standard and what you know.
Yeah. So I definitely get what you're saying. So it's not so much about like the action of going back to him or taking him back, but it's how what you're describing is how your spirit responds to the standard not being set of which you set it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we all know that feels so bad, don't it? Okay, when the way that your spirit responded to your standard not being set, it makes you feel bad. You start to question like what you should have done differently. Why did you do it? You know, it's not worth it. But honestly, it's just your spirit's response to it. You don't have to define it outside of that to try to be like, well, maybe it's this or maybe it's that. You don't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? You just got to realize that standard that you put for yourself is not being met. Your soul will always speak and let you know that. That's why you're sad on the inside when you should be happy when things are going good in your life. You know what I'm saying? Because your standard is not being met. Like I listened to my soul speak, and even though it wasn't that big of a deal, my heart broke yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it wasn't about me not blocking them or entertaining their conversation to a certain extent, because I didn't do it and I knew I wasn't going to do it, but my standard was higher than that. And I realized that. You know what I'm saying? And because there's just so much that's weighing on not even my sobriety, but me meeting my standards, and my sobriety just happens to be a part of my standards. You get what I'm saying? And it's a part of what I'm manifesting for myself. You know what I'm saying? So it's a part of what I manifest for myself. Now, what I do want to add in here, and what I do want to say is, again, Spirit wants me to remind everyone that Spirit standards, the universe's standards, what it takes to heal, it don't take all that. Okay. But what you are requiring to be a part of your healing is what is the guideline. That's the rule. You know what I'm saying? If Spirit says we can do it here, but my personal guideline is right here, then everything has to operate at this standard. You get what I'm saying? Everything. And that's okay. Like our spirit guides are going to support us in operating at the standard. There's no way that we can bring this down because our lives are different. So what gets our standard this high is what we have to personally overcome in our life to be where we are. You know what I'm saying? So does that make sense?
A lot of sense, yeah.
Okay, so don't start thinking like, hey, well, what can I do to bring my standard down? So maybe my standards are too high. No, they're perfect. You get what I'm saying? You set them. Okay, now in all actuality, what kind of pisses me off is because I know that spirit standards are here. Manifestation happens at this level. You know what I'm saying? Real magic, real power, real connection happens at this level, but we have to work so hard at it because our personal standards are here based on what we have going on in our lives, what we need to cut off, what we need to keep away from, what we need to stay away from. You know what I'm saying? So when we don't stay away from certain things, we're already not even reaching our standards. So we're just not back lower. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so typically what happens is we get to that breaking point, but we come down here to where spirit standards are, and we start to feel that love again, right? But it's not permanent. So spirit gives us that love at this standard just to send us back up here to try it again. You get what I'm saying? So we know that spirituality is real because we've been to our low point, but that low point is, honestly, everything can happen at that low point, but it doesn't, because we have to be sent back to our standards, because everything that we want in our heart, we get. You get what I'm saying? Okay, so some of us feel extremely connected at that low point because you're connected there. You get what I'm saying? But you feel disconnected as you start to rise from that spiritual connection, that's where spirit sits at, up to your standard. You know, and spirit is kind of following you, but you're leading the way. That's why a lot of people feel like they're not connected. You're not, but you will be once you start meeting your standards.
That's a good one. I'm the first one. I deserve this. I am choosing hard.
Okay. Everyone mute yourself. Okay. So one of the things that I really, really enjoy about this entire message is the love that was associated with it whenever, because I knew for like a week now, I think it was, since I've been saying we're going to talk about how it affects us, but I had no idea that I was going to go through something, you know, to kind of give me a deeper understanding just yesterday. So it's really cool. So in feeling bad for answering the phone or texting back or messaging back, I felt bad and I went back to that low point, right? So at that low point, you know, there's a lot of connectivity that happens. You know, that's what spirit is, because remember, spirit standards to heal and to do better are not high at all. We as people put all these standards on ourselves. You get what I'm saying? In spirituality, we do it. So I'm at that low point. I'm feeling connected, and I'm listening to what my spirit guides are saying. Like, Jordan, that was your standard. Okay. You know, you see, we still love you. You see, we think that you actually didn't do anything wrong. Okay. We think that you handled the situation really, really well. But you, by your standards, you didn't. Okay. So then I had to start back on my journey. Okay. Back up to my standards and put boundaries up because my standards are a lot higher than that. But there's a lot of love there at that low point. Okay. And I knew that spirit wanted me to do a really good job today at defining, like, okay, these aren't spirit standards. These are your standards. And your spirit guides love you and want you to meet your standards. You know what I'm saying? But one thing about it is the crazy thing is you can't get any lower than where spirit standards are. You know what I'm saying? To where you just can't go any lower than that, right? You can't. And that's where all the healing happens and everything like that. But your standards, our standards, my standards were so, I'm not even gonna say high, but elevated from that space that it hurt coming down. Okay, to where I feel like I was at the bottom and I had to listen to my spirit guides because again, at that bottom space is where we're connected. You know, we're connected throughout that whole entire space, but the journey happens from when we're trying to heal ourselves and when we're realizing that spirit can get you right where you are at that lowest point. You get what I'm saying? What happens is we don't want to heal, we want to reach our standards. Okay, because we want to feel good about our healing. Okay, so we heal at that low point because that's why we wake up and keep going. That's why we keep doing it. That's why we, you know, that's why we give it another try. So we heal at that low point. But when we start putting standards on ourselves, like we all will do, because we want to feel good when we're physically looking at where we're at in our lives, you know what I'm saying? And it's just not worth it. Okay. So speaking to you from someone who had to go from my own personalized standards to here last night, friend, it's just not worth it. Okay. Now, I don't, spirit is going to say something different. Like my spirit guide said, Jordan, you didn't do anything wrong. We actually commend you for what you did. We think that you did a good job. And I did a good job, but I did not do a good job by my standards. And that's what hurt me. You know what I'm saying? That's what hurt my feelings. Okay. A lot of things. So it's not even about, and, you know, just to kind of broaden that up a little bit, it's not even about that particular situation. I would have been hurt if that would have been any other standard. Okay. When I ate that meat, even though I said it in a jokingly manner, okay, when I ate that meat, I was pissed. I was. Okay. And it was a bit comedic and exaggerated on live, but it was an accident. I was not supposed to eat that meat. Okay. And my food actually ended up coming afterwards, but I was full of chicken and beef by the time that it got here. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't about me eating meat or not. It was that standard because I'm doing this because I feel better. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing this because it clears my mind, my energy. It does that. You know what I'm saying? So, but but my spirit's response to eating the meat was the same as yesterday's response. Just yesterday, I just showed it differently. It was a lot more sadness to it. Okay. And the other day, I told jokes about it and I tried to lighten the situation, but trust me, my spirit still responded the same way. And it had nothing to do about texting back or not texting back or eating meat or not eating meat. It was just about me not living at the standard that I'm setting for myself. And because I suffered emotionally both times, it made me realize it's just not worth it. What do y'all think? Mimi.
I was trying to wait for somebody else to
No, what do you think?
I'm with exactly what you're saying because it's like, you know, like I was saying, I went back to messing with my son's father, my fiance, but it's like I felt like I was doing myself a disservice because I told myself I was leaving that situation alone because it was, you know, it got to the point where it was toxic, it was abusive, and I felt like I didn't deserve that. But it's like, you know, outside of that, when me and him is co-parenting and we, you know, sit here, we watch movies and stuff, we cool. Like everything is cool. We actually have a nice time. We have nice conversations. We uplift each other. So it's like, why am I setting my spirit is telling my spirit guys like, It's not that bad, but I set a standard to where I don't need to talk to this motherfucker for what?
No.
So I be hurt when I do mess with him or I talk to him because that's the standard I set myself to. So I totally get it. Like, I just experienced that a couple of days ago. It's funny, you experienced that yesterday. I experienced like 3 days ago.
Yeah. Just kind of coming full circle, but hopefully it's for the meat of the lesson and the discussion today. So I better connect with it, but we'll see. So yeah. So the standards, we understand how that affects us and how that affects our spirit. But let's focus on the emotional. Let's focus. Thank you. Let's focus on what causes us to create a standard in the first place.
Oh man, if we focus on that, a lot of it ain't even got to do with us personally. You really want to know?
Okay. Let me tell you guys what causes us to create that high standard in the first place is our pain, our hurt, how it affects our spirits, how it affects our ability to heal. Okay. You think of your standard as a level that contains everything that you need to function in this life, in spirituality, and in this world. Okay. All of the pain and hurt that you go through in life pushes you to the standard and pushes you to have the standard that you have. Anything that hurts you is a sign that that's not a part of that standard that you need to keep. But it is mostly, and for the majority, pain. Pain is what creates our standard, because if we didn't hurt about it, we wouldn't care about it. You get what I'm saying? So that's why we have to really be in tune with our pain. Seriously. For real. Yep. And if it hurts you, it's something that needs to change. And I mean your feelings, your emotions. Okay. If it hurts you, it doesn't. And I'll take that back. Thank you. So it's not necessarily something that needs to change, but you need to look at that standard. Okay. Because technically, I don't feel like the standard had anything, like you said, Mimi, anything to do with us or the person, but it's about the situation, and it's about how your spirit responds to that situation, which creates that standard.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you think about it, your standards are really keeping you safe. Because if you stay at your standards, you won't have to deal with that pain. You won't have to deal with that heartache. You won't have to deal with, with feeling bad about your relapse or feeling bad about texting other people who are connected to drugs on the phone, Jordan. If you stay at that standard, you know what I'm saying? So why do we feel like meeting our standards, or why do we feel like our expectations and standards are too high? Why?
I don't know. I'm the only one talking shit.
You okay?
I don't know. For me personally, I feel like some standards I set for myself be too high because I be worried about how other people are going to look at me or feel about me.
So you can set a standard for yourself, right?
Right.
That's too high based on how other people feel. But if it don't affect you, you might not give a fuck about that standard, or you might choose yourself first over that standard that you set. Okay, that's where we satisfy ourselves at. But when it involves you and your emotions, that's a standard that you will feel the repercussions when it's not met. When you're not meeting it, when your environment doesn't meet your standard, because when it's not being met, right? You'll know it's not being met by Mimi feeling sadness.
Right.
Thing, but we fuck up at when we feel that sadness and we start to think, well, maybe this person has to go or that has to go. We first need to realize, no, our standard is not being met. So how is that fact going to reshape our reality? Will we lose this person? We may, okay, but not all the time. You know what I'm saying? Right. So you got to think about it. Okay.
I was going to say, I think it has to do with our ego, right? Our ego is like, we need to be seen, heard, and that's tied into our pain a lot of times, right? So I have to agree with you on that one. I think it has a lot to do with our ego.
We do.
Because we want to be seen, and it's our pain.
Elaborate on that.
Well, because I think, and the whole thing, like our ego is the need to survive. right? I mean, that's what it's all about. So it's like we need to, so our standard is set on, I want to live, I want to be seen, you know, my pain, I'm here, look at me, I'm hurting. So our first thing to do is to survive. That's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
So we set our standard high because we want to be seen. Then we worry about, well, how is so-and-so going to see me? How do I feel? But it's always going to be based on ourselves and our ego, you know, then everything else falls next, you know, I mean, so that's sort of the way I look at it. But it's true. I think it really has to do with ourselves, and it is a derivative, or it comes from pain a lot of times. Our sadness, our fears, our worries, all of that. So I have to agree on that one.
Very, very good point. So it will and sometimes sometimes your standards not being met hurts you more than the actual action itself that's causing your standards to not be met. Okay, so when you're taking two people, if you take a lover and your standard not being met, right? Okay, and the standard not being met hurts you more than your lover talking to you like crap. Which one do you address first?
It'd be the standard part for me. When I look back at the standards I set for myself versus the situation that I said I wasn't going to allow myself to be in, it'd be my standard that I set, because I'd be like, I kind of be mad at the situation, I'd be hurt and I'd be angry at the situation, but then I look at it like, well, you wouldn't have went through that shit in the first place if you would have stayed with what you said you wasn't going to do. And then the anger turns back to me. Then I'd be upset with me. And then it's like, that's what throw me back. Like, well, you know, I shouldn't have put myself in that space. I told myself I wasn't going to do this. I told myself I wasn't going to do that. Now look at me.
Okay. So you said you realized the standard not being met, right? Okay. So that simple concept, now that I feel like you understand that a little bit clearer, is going to shape your situation. You know what I'm saying? Because how you respond to your standards and you addressing your standards could possibly make that relationship work out after all, because it was never about you trying to realize that he wasn't doing the right thing. You needed to realize what standard you had set, and then things can be shaped or manifested out of that standard.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That makes a lot of sense.
So you know, a lot of relationships ourselves, we can really do, honestly, we can really do a lot of things, but because of the standards that we put in ourselves, we can't. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because our standards, by operating in our standards, we give ourselves peace, we give ourselves clarity, we're safeguarding our hearts, our emotions, and we just so happen to have to also operate magically and practice out of that same standard, because you have to practice your magic and your manifestations out of the same standard. Okay. Now, so that makes it a little harder. You know, it makes it a little tough. Sue, what do you think? You're muted, Sue.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. What do you think?
Okay. I was actually sitting here thinking I've been really happy lately and proud of myself about some stuff until I talked to my daughter-in-law tonight. She thinks that I'm selfish and that I spend a lot of time with my grandchildren and stuff, but she thinks that my drug problem, that I spend too much time like trying to fix myself and I should be better already and stuff. And
Okay.
I'm actually not. They don't know that in October I tried to kill myself, and they found out that I had relapsed in October, and it had been, I went straight 5-6 months of doing it, and they didn't know again. So they found out once I got put in the hospital, and like I was better when I get out and I relapsed, because I'm only like today 22 days clean, and they don't know I relapsed again. Pardon?
I said, good for you.
Yeah, it's really hard though, because after talking to her tonight, like she kind of knocked me down as if, you know, everything I'm doing is not good enough, that I'm selfish and that I don't spend enough time with my grandchildren, but yet I'm there every single weekend, all the time. I really am. She
So
thinks that.
let me ask you this.
Mhm.
So between me and you, would you like to spend more time with your grandchildren? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And I do spend a lot of time with them as it is. I mean, because I work. So I work through the
Right.
week. I get
So
off at 3:30.
would you like to see yourself at some point spend way more time with them than what you do now, even though you spend a lot of time with them now?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
I like to have time. I don't think I'm being selfish. I like to have time to
so
myself. I have one friend.
I don't think you're being selfish either, but you would like to spend more time with your grandkids, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So that's your standard that you're setting, even
yeah,
though in all actuality, you spend enough time with them, correct?
yeah, I do.
Okay. So what happens is, because you want to spend more time with them, you're setting that standard. Okay. Standards are manifestation, and people begin to talk to you or fuss at you based echoing what your standard is. Okay.
Mhm.
So if your standard had a voice, it would probably say something like, oh, you're selfish. You don't spend enough time with your grandkids.
I don't find
Does
that
that make
way.
sense?
It does. I just don't find my
Okay.
family
So
understands my
let me
drug
say
problem.
this.
Yep.
But and people, they do understand it, but you got to understand this. Do y'all understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you understood maybe your drug problem a little bit more, or whatever the case may be, then I believe that people would start to say it differently. But there are things that you want to change. Okay, you started off your conversation and said, I'm only 22 days clean. That's a milestone. And you don't understand that. You get what I'm saying? So people are going to speak to you, or your standard is going to speak to you, and it's going to sound like, okay, all you need, you're on drugs, or you need to change this, or you're selfish and things like that. You get what I'm saying? People around you, your standards are what you manifest out of. And if your standard had a voice, it does have a voice. It's your family, it's your friends, it's your, what I'm saying, your relationships. And people, that was a really, really perfect example of that. I think you're doing great. We know that you're doing great. We know that people don't understand your addiction the way that you want them to, but by your standards, it's your standards that's speaking to you through people. So don't ever hold them accountable. Don't hold your daughter accountable for that. You get what I'm saying? And unfortunately, that thing, okay, or whatever that was that I just described, that's what we open ourselves up to when we get on this spiritual journey. Okay, now our standards have to start talking to us. And now, people are saying, well, you need to lose weight. Well, they probably, well, isn't that a standard that I have, to lose weight? So it's my standard that's speaking to me. That's why it feels bad. It doesn't feel bad that they're saying that I need to lose weight, or that they're critiquing me. It's my standard not being met that makes me feel bad. You know what I'm saying? If you have the desire to be a hard worker, okay, that's the standard that you set for yourself. And then people come around and say, you know what, you're lazy. You don't really work that hard. That could be because you're not meeting your standard. Are you really a hard worker, or could you work harder like you want to? Do you have to work harder? That's a personal question. Probably not. You know what I'm saying? But does that make sense? Okay.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay. Something I've learned, and like I've got 10 plus years clean. The one thing I was told, first of all, when I went into recovery, is we didn't care about what other people's feelings were when we were using. We need not to worry about them right now, because this is a selfish program. We have to fix us before we can help and take care of anybody else. And I know that sounds extremely selfish, because it is. We're the ones that are broken. Nobody else is going to understand that but us. And you have to be okay with that, because that's what's going to get you better. That's what's going to be able to allow you to take care of your kids. Because in our active addiction, we didn't do that. We didn't take care of our kids. We didn't take care of our grandkids. We were in the bathroom hiding. We were in a building hiding. We were wherever we were using. And that they weren't on our minds. So right now, when especially with you only being 22 days clean, that's where you need to be. You need to be focused on you and getting you taken care of. And it's okay. They can have feelings and they can feel like you're being selfish. And that's when you have to say, yes, I have to, because it's my sanity, my safety I have to take care of. Because if I'm not taking care of it, I'm going to go right back out there and use. And then you're not going to have to worry about me because I'm going to be dead. And I know that sounds extremely severe and drastic, but for me, I had to look at it that way, because if I didn't look at the fact that I could die out there on the streets, I would have never gotten clean. So I just wanted to say that I know it's not setting a standard, and I know I'm going a little bit off topic.
No, you're not. Okay, you said what I couldn't say. So I appreciate you stepping in. That was very much so right on time.
I think it was still on the topic for real with the standard, because when you think about it, I was told in high school, when you have kids and you on a plane, like it's like look at it like this. You're on a plane with your child and the plane is about to go into a crash and you got the airbags that come down. Who do you put the mask on first, your child or yourself? And I said myself, I said my child, because I'm like, I got to save my child first. And they said, no, because you're going to die from not having no oxygen before you could even try to save your child. So you have to put it on your face first and then get to your child so you can be able to save your kids or whoever else is next. But I felt some type of way about that because that was the standard I set for myself. I'm like, no, I got to put this before me. And they like, no, you got to put yourself first. So you wasn't off topic at all. You telling everybody like, put yourself first. We setting a standard to take care of everybody else but ourselves. You are the main person you need to worry about right now. Nobody else. You can't help nobody. You don't help yourself.
You can't. Yeah. And by her saying that you are selfish was maybe your standard talking to you and telling you to be selfish because you need to be, so that way you can stay clean and keep making the right decisions. Yeah. But that was very good, Dawn. Yeah. Ash, what do you think? Oh, are you busy?
Just trying to figure out how to fix this. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Happy birthday, Jordan. And
Thank you.
I appreciate you, Sue, for being selfish, and congratulations on your 22 days, because you are loved and we need you here. You need you here. So congrats to that. I think the whole standard thing is a great topic because I've been there, and I'm sitting here just trying to, maybe this might be off topic. I'm just sitting here trying to put things into perspective because yesterday, my brother, who's an addict or whatever, he took all of my nieces and nephews, including my son's Christmas presents that were still at my mom's house, like a hoverboard. They each had a hoverboard and a scooter, and he sold it for drugs. Everything. It was like $600 worth, and he probably sold it for all of those things for less than 100. And he has a child, so I'm trying to think, because right now, because I'm clean, it may not make sense to me. Like, why would you do that? You have a daughter. It's going to be spring. She's going to ask where her stuff is. But I have to put myself back in that mindset where I didn't care. And again, it goes back to standards, because it's like, you have to start with yourself first, because he obviously doesn't care what anyone else thinks. He has to hit that rock bottom to make it make sense to him. And I've been there. So, I mean, it's just a great topic. I'm kind of just everywhere spinning around it, but I'm just trying to put everything in perspective with what happened in my life yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not a topic that I've learned until recently, so I'm kind of talking slow and really digesting it. And I feel really honored to be spoken the topic and spoken this to. It just makes me feel good. Happy birthday to me. because it's a really great concept. And I think I'm going to dwell on this for a couple of weeks, and it really, if you think about it, and this is kind of off topic, but if you think about it, when you think about the standard that we set versus what we actually have to do to heal, that should make you admire spirituality or your spirit guides a little bit more, because the healing doesn't require that much. The love is there, but we're trying to reach our standards because we want to see it. You get what I'm saying? The standards affect what you see. We want to see it. We want to be in, and there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, your standards are high. They have to be. You know what I'm saying? But don't think spirituality or your spirit guides are so far behind or so far away from you. They are behind you in that aspect because you're chasing your standards, so you're moving up, but they're supporting you in that. You know what I'm saying? But when you're at your lowest, you talk to God, you talk to your spirit guides, and you feel so connected, and God saves your life, or your spirit guides save your life. And then you get a little breath of fresh air, and then you start chasing those standards again because now you want to feel better consistently. So you are on that journey by yourself, but you have that support. So think of your standards up here in the sky, and you down on the ground, and your spirit guides nursing you back to health. There's that love. Y'all have dinner, y'all eat together, and now you're ready to leave from that place. You're ready to go on your journey, but your journey doesn't stay on that plateau. It goes up, towards your standards, because you want to be able to visually see the aesthetic of your life and the aesthetic of your spiritual walk. You want to see it on the outside, but I mean, that whole concept just makes you feel really loved,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So is it okay to not feel that same type of love that you feel when you're at your lowest all the time? Like,
you're not gonna feel that.
You know what I mean? Like that, just that warmth and just that comfort, like a hug from it's okay. Because that's what I haven't been feeling that lately. I've been feeling, I guess I felt like I wasn't connecting.
Yeah, you're not gonna feel it. Okay. And the thing is, like, we can stay there at our lowest, right? Where we feel that warmth and that comfort and all of that energy. We can stay there at that plateau, right? And we should, we should. Our spirit guides want us to, right? But what happens is we start having these standards for ourselves and how we want our life to be. So that's when we start our journey, through life or through spiritual life. But that's when we start our journey, So unfortunately, and we all experience a lonely fucking journey, right? Because we felt more connected at our lowest. We knew what we had to do. We were determined. We're like, okay, we're going to do this. We have the energy that spirituality gives you, the confidence. We're manifesting at our lowest points. That's why we're able to get up and continue our journey. You know what I'm saying? But what we have to do is we have to remember that love and that connection while we're at our lowest, right? So you following me? Okay. Now, as you're going through your journey, you're going to question it. You're going to say, I don't feel anything. My candles aren't working. My spirituality isn't working. But the memory of what you did have in terms of connection it has to mean something. The perfect example of this, I don't know. So, I come from a Christian background, and before I even knew what spirituality was, it was Christian. And there would be certain times, how when you hear like a Christian song or a gospel song and the spirit moves you, right? It's something undeniable that you can't deny, right? How you felt when you heard that, or maybe somebody's preaching something or talking about something. You feel that, right? You feel that presence, right? In my spiritual journey, I often reflect on how that used to feel, even though I don't necessarily feel that connection now, unless I'm in that realm, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? But I know that there's a spirit, and even when I was Christian and nothing else, right? I would know that I would have that connection, even though I don't have that connection all the time, or I don't have that feeling all the time. You know what I'm saying? But what happened is, and I think God is a very real energy, very real source of inspiration. Like, the world revolves around God, and thank God it does, because it's changed some of the toughest people to change. It saved some of the hardest lives to save. You know what I'm saying? So when I would be on my Christian walk towards a spiritual journey, now that I think about it, I would feel really empty. You know what I'm saying? But I would remember how I would feel when I would be singing a song, a Christian song, or listening to a certain prayer. Like the feeling is what I remember. So I started to program myself and tell myself, I don't have to have that feeling all the time, but I know it exists. You know what I'm saying? And that feeling as an addict is what we chase. You know what I'm saying? We chase that good vibration, that good feeling, and we're gonna miss it chasing our standards for a little bit, but we will meet our standards though. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Where we can have that connectivity and that connection and stuff like that. We will. So it's nothing wrong with not having that connection, but it's something wrong if you forget that you had it.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Sometimes some of our greatest achievements come from that feeling of loneliness. Like we don't see them in the moment, but that's when we're making our most, like our greatest strides toward self-healing, self-love, and getting to where we need to be. Sometimes we have to do it alone.
Yeah.
And I mean, it feels like we're alone, but we're not.
I'm learning that one of the things that we really have to do alone, one of the only things that I have to do with myself is meet my standards. You know what I'm saying? Because those are personal. That's what I've said for myself. So that's my own journey. You know what I'm saying? Like your standards and what you set for yourself, that's your own journey. But you do have that love there from the universe and from your spirit guides. You know what I'm saying? And I think that one of the reasons why when you're at your lowest, you have your greatest achievements is because remember at that low point is the ultimate connection. One thing that has really stuck with me throughout the years that my spirit guides and ancestors told me is they said, Jordan, you start at the finish line. So when you start your spiritual journey, when you start trying to figure out what gift you have, when you start trying to figure out what you're going to do with your spirituality, you got to remember you start at your spirit line. At the finish line. Okay. So if you start at the finish line, that means you have all the gifts. You just got to start going. You know, that means you have all the knowledge. You just got to trust yourself. Okay. But what happens is we leave that finish line because now we have standards because it's personal and it's by preference. So it's just, well, Jordan, what do you prefer? Well, it might be a higher standard to reach that level, but you can do it. You know what I'm saying? But if you ever just want to come back and be connected, then it might be defined as your low point, but it's also the point of where you're connected at.
I have another question.
Sure.
I'm sorry. What happens whenever we're meeting our standards and we're going to where we want to be and we're still not content or happy?
You're not meeting. Because if you meet your standards, then that means that your standard has put you in a place to where you're not content and happy. Now, there's a difference between your standards that you set for yourself will never ever put you in a place that you're not content and happy. So that emotion and that feeling of not being content is like a red flag or a warning, like, hey, I'm not at my standard yet. Something needs to change. You know? Does that make sense?
A lot of sense.
So one thing that I feel like we're super, super connected to are the standards that we have. Okay, our spirit and our emotions responds quickly when those standards are not being met. Feelings of sadness, anger, complacency, all of that is going to and so that's how I know that you have an intuitive gift, because that's intuition. Okay, and you know when you're sad or when you're unhappy and when you don't need to, you know what I'm saying? You know when something is wrong, or you know when your standard is not being met. It takes you using your gift to realize where your standards are and when they're not being met.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
I know sometimes it's for me it might be I don't believe I can make a standard, so I might lowball myself for my standard, and then I make the lowball standard so easy to where I look ahead. I was like, I could have set my standard higher if I just had that belief in myself that I couldn't make.
Yeah. So I believe that your standard was already set higher, because if you made your low ball standard and you sat there and thought like, hey, I can go a little farther than this. You know what I'm saying? Our original standards are the standards that our spirit set. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like we had high standards this whole time. You just chose to achieve maybe one thing at a time. You know what I'm saying? But that feeling of just, oh, there's a little more I can do. that's not a good feeling to have. You know what I'm saying? You want to have that emotion of, oh, I've done everything I can. I'm happy now. That's when you can tell that your standard is being met. For real. I'm serious. Okay. And I realized that I've been meeting my standards for a couple of months now. Okay. So when for the first time, it kind of shocked me. Like, it shocked me that I did not block these people or I messaged them back, and how low it brought me, like, made me realize, like, oh, okay. So, I was at a good place just then. Like, that was my standard right there. And I felt like I was going to lose my gift and my ability. You know what I'm saying? I felt like I was going to lose everything behind not texting back. Like, I was perplexed. You know what I'm saying? It was very bad. And I went to that low space and I was just like, this sucks, And then I had my spirit guide say, well, Jordan, why does it suck? What's happened? What's changed? What has changed? You know what I'm saying? But I really can speak, like, and I'm gonna say this. I'm really happy. And I have been, and it just adds gravity to my standards. Like, I didn't realize that I was meeting my standards, or honestly what a standard was, until recently. You know what I'm saying? And then, because when I got to that low place and my spirit guides are like, well, what do you have to do to get back there? How do you meet that standard again? I just go back to doing what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? That's it. So I've been doing something that I have thought has been so hard for months now. You know what I'm saying? And that's also the answer of how I get from this low point.
May I speak? Hello?
Yeah.
Jordan?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Lasagna.
I understand what the young lady was saying earlier about you have set your standards, because I've always set my standards high, but you're in a place where you're not happy. I'm a year in my sobriety. I just made a year the other day, and thank you. But I'm also I'm in a recovery house, and I am also working. But this is all new for me, because I'm in a recovery house, and like, there's rules, and that's okay with the rules, but then you feel like a child almost. And then as far as working, it's not what I'm used to. So it's like I was forced to just take a job that does not make me happy. So I understood what she was saying. You're in a place where you're just not happy. And I can also say, yeah, I mean, who wants to be in a recovery house?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you have rules in place and you have to follow, and do things that you don't want to do, which I make my meetings. I love meetings. Those help a lot. But I'm really, really, and I don't want to seem like I am. I'm glad that I have a job, but I am just not
You're not
satisfied.
happy, right? Not satisfied.
No.
And you have to be not satisfied, because that's not where you're going to be at your whole life. We both know that, right? We all know that. This is just a stepping stone to get you to a place to where you are meeting your standards. You know what I'm saying? To where you're not going to be happy with what you have going on now. We shouldn't be happy with what we have going on when there's still better that we can do and that we know that we can do.
Right. It's just that, yeah, I understand, but it just don't, I guess it's that instant gratification, like, but I know I have to trudge through this, and but it's just like, it's just taking
ask you a question.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. So once you finally get to where you're trying to go, right? You've met your standards, you're out of that place, you're in a good space. what's gonna be worth it going back down?
What's going to be worth it?
Yeah, what would you do to go back down? And I guess let me explain it like this: like when people get into these good, like if I like how I'm sober right now, right? I'm in a really good space, a really good headspace, and I once was in the space that you're in, you know, being in a rehab, recovery house, and things like that. It wouldn't make sense if I relapsed right now, right? Because I
Right.
would put myself back into that space. But I had to be in that space to where I felt just like you did, you know, and I didn't want to be there. I wasn't happy and I wasn't meeting my standards. You know what I'm saying? So just go through that and take all that in, because you'll eventually be at a space to where you're not going to want to trade anything in the world for where you will be in life or for that moment
Right.
in life. You get what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
supposed to be hard. It's not
Right.
supposed to be good right now. But the thing is, where a lot of us mess up at is because we get to these good spaces and we're willing to throw it down the drain. Okay.
Right.
Now,
hmm
because I've done this time and time again. Okay. And even
Right.
though I feel like I came close yesterday, you know, even though I didn't, my spirit guide say I didn't, I still feel like I came close to throwing it all down the drain. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. I don't think there's anything that could make me want to.
That's what we all
Yeah.
say.
I
That's
mean,
what
yeah. And um, which it doesn't make any difference, but my drug of choice is alcohol, which alcohol is a drug.
it is.
It is. So, yeah, and like you're saying, I mean, that's something easy that I can
I know,
easily go and
but
get.
also hard. I mean, alcohol is something you can go and get. It's something that people keep in their homes every day. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So the
Yeah.
environment of what has brought you down or what has led you to being in a recovery house is actually a lot worse than having the illegal drugs or the illicit drugs that we have to go out and find. You know, I can't
Yeah.
walk into my godparents' house and see meth or, you know, anything hard like that. But you can walk into any home, your friends are gonna have a bottle of beer. They got it in the store, it's in Walmart, it's everywhere. So you really need to pay attention to how you feel right now and soak all that sadness and dissatisfaction up.
Right. Right.
Yeah. You
Thank
know?
you.
Um, so yeah. Does that make sense?
Do that.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of things before we adjourn. Okay, I really, really enjoyed today. I'm gonna have another topic that we're gonna talk about next month. And is everyone in the group me? Okay.
No,
So,
no.
I don't
so
think
I'm gonna
so.
actually post the I'm gonna actually post the group me. Hold on one second. So you just need to make sure you download the app. Okay. And then I'm maybe the link will take you to the app. I'm not sure how it did me, but I'm gonna post it right now and pin it, and then just join the group me and like it's like a group chat for us if you ever need help, somebody to talk to or whatever the case may be. It's a lot of us in there. And if anything changes, like how we went early today, how we posted Zoom links and stuff like that, we'll put it in there. But that is pinned, so everyone join the group me. Okay, but I love you
Okay.
guys. I'm going to I could have had more of a victorious birthday had I not text that individual back. But I'm in a better space now, so I'm going to enjoy the rest of my evening. I really, really enjoyed you guys. And Miss Tanya, hang in there, girl. Okay, join the group me. Okay, it's just a little alcohol, friend. You got
All
this.
right.
Okay, this.
Thank you.
And there are girls and people in that group me who you can actually reach out to if anybody needs help. I'm in there too. But yeah, so please y'all join the group me, okay?
Thank you. Good to see you live. I mean, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
good to
this is my
see you.
this is my resting state, Miss Tanya. This is my resting state. So it's very different than the lives most days. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
All right, I'll see y'all
Thank
later.
Happy
Bye.
birthday,
Enjoy your
Tanya.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Bye.
Hey, Tanya, are you still on here?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to give you some things that I learned in my recovery.
Mhm.
I went from a rehab. I was supposed to be in for 90 days. I was kept in rehab for 186 days. And what I had to learn, one, was my timing isn't always necessarily divine timing. And I had to
Right.
learn patience. And that was part of my rehab learning, was just because I'm supposed to be here for 90 days, I wasn't ready to be released in 90 days. I needed to learn a lot more. Did it piss me off? Yeah. But did I learn a
Mhm.
whole lot more? Yes. And looking back on it now, I'm glad I was where I was, because I needed extra. Um, I did go into a recovery house for a very short time afterwards as well. And I know it sucks, but one thing that I was taught by my sponsor was, first of all, we get clean, but our mind's not clean. And that
Right.
is why they require us to do things on their level, because we are learning, just like we became babies again. We have to learn how to be proper members of society, not burdens on society, which is where we were when we were using. We used
Right.
everybody and everything. And, even if it was just alcohol, I'm sure you could admit that at some point during your using, you wouldn't be where you're at today if you didn't burn and use other people or other things besides alcohol.
No, I'm sorry, but it was just I just got tired because it was no longer fun.
Okay,
And
fun. That's okay.
yeah, it was just drinking to drink.
Oh,
Just to, you know,
okay.
just to not to deal with things. It just was drinking to drink.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but you're
Help.
right. I've told my little lies.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, learning to live by rules again, because I know for me, I didn't live by rules when I was using. I live by my rules, and those aren't necessarily society's rules. Um,
Right.
you know, and so living by rules was not easy because it was felt like I was a kid again, and I'm being told what to do. And here I am, 30 years old. I shouldn't be having to be told what to do.
Right.
But in the long term, it connected my brain to a proper format of thinking, to where now I am a proper member of society. I've been in the same
Mm.
apartment since 2015.
Oh wow.
I don't have to worry about my children. My children, my oldest two, weren't taken from me once, but twice when in
Oh,
addiction. So
I
I was
hear that.
way deep down in there. But I don't have to worry about that today. DCFS was just called on me 3 weeks ago from the school. And guess what? They're canceling the case. And did I have jitters and did I have worries? None. None. Because I knew I
Right.
was doing what I need to do. So could I say, if I didn't go through the rehab and didn't go through changing my thought process, I would be in that same position today? I can say honestly, 1000%, no, I cannot say in the same position, because
Yeah.
it's just the using, it's the changing your brain, changing your thought process. And that's where the rehab, that's where this recovery house comes in and helps. Being around people that have time, that can sit there and talk to us and be like, one thing I was pissed about when I first started recovery was, why can't I date? And the
Right.
doctor told me, go buy a plant. If you can keep that plant alive for a year, then we'll talk about you dating. And I didn't understand what she meant when she told me that.
Hmm.
It made sense, because now I have to
Right.
get something else besides myself. And honestly, I killed my first plant in a month.
Oh wow. That's funny.
I had a lot to learn. Um, so I know it's hard, but just remember, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what you need to work for. And that's where our standards come in. It's like, this
Yeah.
is where you want to be for the rest of your life. So that's where you set those standards and you strive for those standards. That's what's going to keep you clean. That's what's going to get you to change, and that's what's going to get you where you don't want to be. My standards
Right.
for today, being in this apartment for the rest of my life, my now standards is, I want a home, I want land, I want to be a
Right.
owner. And so that's
Yeah.
my now standard, and that's my goal. I don't think I could have ever said that 10 years ago, because I wasn't even on that mind frame.
So you are where you are, and you got this.
Thank you.
Hopefully that helps a little bit.
It does.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're
May I
welcome.
say, I'm sorry. I started a work from home business I've been in recovery, and I started a business. I've been doing this for like 2 years, and I started it because I have a bunch of kids, and my kids came out of custody after 6 years, and I have no family to help me with my kids. So, it's kind of like, like I'm rebuilding my house. I've managed to buy a little rinky-dink house, and the business ain't generating millions of dollars. I'm not gonna lie, but it generates enough to where I just paid off my house. And so, which it was $200 a month, but and it's in Jackson, Mississippi, but it's a start to go get that land to build something from that. And my business, the reason I started the business too was because I wanted to help other women, and people, not just women, that are like us, that it's hard for me to work a 9-to-5 job. It is. It is to go in and sit there for 8 hours and concentrate on that and not be everywhere in my head and all at home. And, it's hard. And then when my kids, they always seem to get sick, and it's just one thing after another. My truck don't want to crank. It just, so I started this, and I work from home, and it's called Stormy Blessings Communications. And, it's been my standard. The reason why I was talking about not being happy is because I've accomplished everything that I set out to accomplish 3 years ago. I've gotten my kids back. I bought my house. I've started my business. I've had the same job for 2 years. Believe it or not, that wasn't in my repertoire back in the day. But so if it can be done. I went to rehab 3 times. I wasn't court ordered. I didn't have to go to a halfway house, but I ended up staying. Every time I went to rehab, I was pregnant. Just so happened to find out I was pregnant when I got to rehab. I've got 3 kids that are back to back, and then one that was miscarriage. And I had to give 3 of my kids to DHS, hand them over. Not because I wasn't being taken care of, but because I couldn't put the drugs down. My kids were well taken care of. That wasn't the problem. Whether I was working or not, they were taken care of. It was the drugs. And I can honestly say now, that I got them back. But you know what? I also have to go through trauma therapy twice a week to be able to maintain. And that's hard, and that's sometimes because I was able to maintain for a while without it. And then when I got my kids back and I had to start being a mama, and just being a mama triggered the shit out of me. Every time I turned around, I was getting triggered. That right there is all that old stuff from back in the day, and this, that, and the other. And it just, man, that makes you want to go out there. So, and there's days that I wish that I was back at rehab. Those 90 days that I did in rehab were first primary and then secondary, before we had to get out and pay bills and get babies up. And you know what I'm saying? It gets better though. Like I said, I was sitting there today, I want to cry so bad, and I'm like, why are you crying? What do you got to cry about, man? You were blessed. You are blessed beyond measure, and it's easier. And like if somebody called DHS on me right now, I'd be like, come on through. They've actually done that too. They called DHS the teacher the first year my kids came home they've been home for 1.5 years, and my son is ADHD. When he came home, I took him off of his medication because I wanted to see where he was, because they had him really, really doped up. And I was like, we're going to figure out where you're at, and then we're going to start again from what we need to do for you. So I took him off medication. When my son decided to go paint jackets outside, he decided to get in the shed and get a gallon of paint and paint a cabinet for me in his brand new jacket. And he went through, this child goes through shoes every couple of weeks. He's rough on them. When I tell you rough, I mean rough. I got shoes with tags on them put up. I catch him on sale because he's rough on them. So when he went to school, he had stains on his pants, no matter how hard I could get them out. I tried. That jacket I had just bought him, I said, no, you're going to wear that. We're going to wash it and you're going to wear it, because I can't afford another jacket right now. I get paid in 2 weeks. So you get about 2 weeks until you can get you a new jacket, It was still brand new. It just had some paint on it. So this woman called DHS on me. And DHS showed up at my door. DHS looked at me. She was like, why am I at your house, Miss Hatfield? And I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. So she explained to me what happened. And I looked at her, I said, the teacher just, she don't, I had explained to the school that I didn't know what I was doing, that I had all these kids and they've been in school for all these years, but I didn't even know what the hell I was doing when I got there to register my kids because I'd never done it. I'm looking like my kids are not, like your kids are in first, second, third, fourth. That don't mean I did it. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't even there. So, everybody, but they understood that. I told them, I was like, I'm in recovery and I'm just trying to figure this out. Jimmy, just help me. So they had an understanding for that. But that one teacher, she didn't. And that could have turned out a whole lot different. A whole lot different. Because when I figured out, my old me was go up to the school and bust her upside the head. I swear to God, I stood there contemplating that for a couple of hours. I swear to God, I did. I was like, man, this woman just really called DHS on me. And all I'm doing is trying, I was like, bruh. And my baby mama, she was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. She said, that's in the past. So I went up there and I talked to the principal because I thought the principal did it first. And I was like, why would you call DHS on me? You know that I'm trying. I'm not her. And they're here every day. And she was like, I didn't call DHS on you, Miss Hatfield. And that's when we realized the teacher did it. Well, about 2 months after school stopped, right before it started back up, we was at the walking park and I saw the principal come to find out they fired their teachers and the school was over with for doing it. And I felt bad about it, but at the same time, though, I was like, you know what? I'm glad I didn't go bust the principal upside. Because I'm telling you, when I walked in that school, boy, I was like, are you serious, man? Did you, but I'm glad I didn't because I got an ally now for raising my kids. And they calling me, man. I got 4 kids in school and them Hatfields are known. I ain't gonna sit here and say they're perfect. They're not known for, being bad, but they're known, they're known. And that means I have a good relationship. And that's stuff that I couldn't have had 2 years ago. And it really isn't. And so if all that to say, sorry, y'all, I miss adult conversation. Besides, thank you for calling TurboTax. How may I assist you? That's what I do right now. So it says, if I wouldn't have stayed those 90 days that last time and got stabilized before I came out into this world, I wouldn't have been able to do anything that I'm doing right now because I wouldn't have been able to sit the hell down long enough to do it and get some understanding of what I do and don't want for the rest of my life. Because once the world starts back and you're not in, we're not in that place that rehab. Mine was like, it was primary and secondary. And, you ain't had no bills paid. You didn't have nothing to do. All you had to do was go home. The worst thing I had to hear was a bunch of females fussing. And at one point I was in the middle of that, but I stopped, and I went and sat my ass down somewhere because I was like, this is not worth my blood pressure. So, if that's the worst thing that we had to worry about when I had to sit there, I was so uncomfortable and I hated it. Lord, I hated it. I wanted to cuss some folks out every day. I didn't want to go to bed. When I wanted to go to bed, I wanted to sit up on, I didn't want to clean up my bed. I'm pregnant. I'd have worked at Roses for $7.50 on my feet for 8 hours. I don't screw you. But I'm glad I did it because, and everybody around me right now, I'm in the middle of South Jackson, Mississippi. I don't know if y'all know anything about Jackson, Mississippi, but baby, when I tell you I got folks getting murdered left and right around me. When I tell you murdered, I'm talking about like I'm listening to it happening every night. I'm in the middle of the worst of the country right now. And people can come to my house and take a shower. And then if they need to, they can come over here. Don't bring the drugs to my house. Don't bring the drama to my house. And you know what? You need somewhere to go. You can come take a shower. If I catch you doing anything in my house, you got to get out. And they know not to play with me. But because I feel like that's what my calling is, because I done been down through there. You know what I'm saying? I done been on them streets. And I managed to come up out of it when most of the people that I started with didn't do that. And so, I put myself in the middle of it, and it's hard. I done got lost off in it just a little bit. Them streets are easy to go back into, man. Because you get to thinking about when them bills get due, man, look, bro, I can, and it's real easy to slip back into it. It really is. Especially if that's the only thing you ever knew. I wasn't somebody that was grew up rich that sunk down to the bottom. I came from the bottom. Didn't know what good looked like until, I'm sorry, I'm just talking. I didn't know what good looked like until until I got stable, and really until I got out the rehab. That's yeah.